Hello, everyone. I would like to talk to you today about burnout and to tell you that yes, it is true. We all feel it at a certain point in our lives, and maybe some people are actually living in that state of mind and feeling all the stress to their body. So I want to say two things that I found that to be critical when you are in this state and when you feel that you're burning out, or when you feel that whatever you want to do, your body can it gives you enough signs that you need to stop because we cannot take more on. And one thing I would like for you to realize is that it's so different for everyone. You cannot say that whatever somebody's going through or do, it's going to be something that you cannot. Or because that if you say that, that is true, because you are going to be so differently wired than another person. So when they do certain things and you're admiring someone and for whatever they go through and how they handle certain situations, remember that you don't want to compare with that person because they will be so differently wired than you. That's one thing to note. Although we all have the same body parts, we're kind of the same. We have the brain, we have our all the systems in place that are similar. How are we using it? It's going to be different for everyone. So please, when you get to see someone that may be pushing through something and you want to stop them, or you want to kind of impose your mindset on what they do, remember that probably that is something that they actually thrive on. They may be something that they need it, and they may be something that they will excel at. And even if it looks to you super overwhelming, that is because our interpretation of what somebody's going through, it's going to be different any given time. Now, that doesn't mean that they are not going to feel burnout, or you are not going to be feel burnout at certain with doing certain tasks. And what I think it's very important to realize is looking at, especially at women, who, for some reason, and we all know probably why. I'm not going to discuss in this topic right now, but they are feeling this burnout less effective than what's happening in a man sometimes with men and women. We're looking at this differently. We have a little bit more of a resiliency built in us, and it feels like sometimes we're pushing too much and we're going to get in that state of a burnout faster. And it's important to recognize the signs, and it's important to look at what I'm going to make here an analogy, and I'm going to tell you why I do that in a second. It's important for you to know one thing that you could do quickly is to not think that blocking, when you look at your schedule and you're using those time blocking, you're not keeping up with that. That could be a first sign. If you have too much on your calendar and you are one of those persons who puts things on a calendar, color coding and have it everything together, and you're starting the execution of it, and you still feel that you're not accomplishing everything, they could be for two reasons, right? And usually both of those are going to the same conclusion, which is you're taking on too much. And the reason scheduling, it's not working if you are already burned out. You need to actually take that away completely. So do not, if you feel like you are in this burnout and you just realize and you acknowledge it and you want to have you agree with it, then please do not go back to your scheduling. And what you want to do at that time is to put it completely down. Do not stay with the calendar management, because those are not going to help you in that moment. You can just although you may feel like you want to continue to do more and more work to prove yourself as an essential person in your team at home or whatever, that time blocks it's not going to help you with this. feeling. So what can you do instead? You need to recognize that moment that happens, and you need to kind of figure out, keep a log if needed, to keep to know when you are getting in that state or close to the state. So when you are in that state of a burnout, please find that method that works for you and ensure that it's not trading between your career and your personal life. Burnout, it's affecting all of those areas of your life, and you want to make sure that you're not going to take from a different place. And another thing will be to avoid this burnout. You need to take care of your physically. And I know this is hard for some of us to kind of think about, that we do need to do that. We need more sleep. We need healthy and exercising and other things that we can do, eating and drinking what's needed, how much is needed on the water, or anything else that it's important for you to know. Get to know yourself very well. When I keep asking the question of how much of time are you spending on self-awareness, I keep getting the same response, which is very alarming, because people are not taking the time to recognize that they need to introspection, to kind of self-reflect on what exactly is that they need to function well. And then they just go and pick up everything as it comes. It comes to them, and that it's most likely a recipe for disaster, because you will get yourself to feel this burnout sooner rather than later. So let's leave this to the side for a moment, and let me talk to you about this last 100 yards kind of a concept. I came to think about this when I went personally last year through a situation where I was faced with a life-threatening situation that I had no idea even how I got in. I mean, not how I got into it, and now I know how I got into it, but in that moment, it did not felt that is so critical. And after I realized what happened is, like when you go into an accident and you just feel like, okay, thank God it was not something so critical that it could have been. And in that moment, it kind of shakes you, and you can stay and reflect more. It gets you to be more present and analyze the situation that you're in. And if we learn to do that, if we learn to think about that, so many times we're getting close to that moment where our, I don't know, mortality is so close. It's helping us to become more self-aware about what are the things that we really want to do that we may not have time. Or when you hear about somebody who got, I just heard about people who were in my network, very close friends, or people who used to be with me in high school, who just didn't have enough time to battle something terrible, like a disease that they could not go over that. And it made me, of course, we are at one point when we hear those things, it's kind of put us back into that mode of reality check, and it's helping us in a way to see what, not why, but what is that we can do differently. Some people are making, and that's my last point for today. If you want to take this, it's important to ask the right questions when some things like that happen. And I love the question what more than the question why. Sometimes there is a place for why. I agree that there is a place for why, mostly when you want to create something and you want to see why am I doing that, but not necessarily when something happens. The best question is going to be what is that I can do to that, just so it can move me forward. Because if I get stuck in the why question and try to answer that, I might just go back in time and I might just feel stuck into the past and I can't change that. But if I ask myself about the question the right way, which is the what is that I can do with this, what can I do with whatever happened, then I can come up and activate another part of my brain, which is telling me now in the future, what is that I need to change. So for my example, that I went in the hospital and I came back home and I realized I don't drink enough water. And of course, so many people kept telling me that, but I did not listen, because you're not going to listen to somebody that's telling you something until you probably start to feel the need for accepting or focusing or prioritizing or putting your mind to that. Sometimes it's a waste of time for us to advise people who they don't want to be taking our advice. That's why it's best to say, do not give an advice unless you're asked for it. So it's all about how are we wired, and how are we ready, getting ourselves ready to accept that advice, rather than just putting it out and hope for the best to happen. But coming back to yourself and ourselves and myself, and what can we do about this burnout? I want you to think about that this exists all over you. It's like a round circle, or whatever you want to make it look like. And it's going to be there. It's in the depth, if you want to look at it forward. And when you're going forward, that thing is there. So it will matter for you to know that you can reach that. Whether you put it on the above, on the round, or on the top, it's still going to be a possibility. But if you're going to put yourself this 100 yards kind of a concept, what is that I know if I am in my last kind of 100 yards, and not knowing when your finish is, because we don't know when something can happen to us, but in the same time, we can just live our life in a different way if we're thinking that we are on those last 100 yards. So what happened to me when I started thinking about that was I could do more things that I kind of put them in hold much faster, much better. I could have the questions that have the discussions that felt hard to have much easier. It's going to be much easier to have it. I felt that also my time and my priority, it's rearranged by itself. So there is a wisdom in the quote that I shared, and it's important to look at what can we do with taking this concept of we don't know when something can happen to us, and we may learn how to feel and listen to the signals, so we can just release the pressure, or just go back and take more from that list of what energizes us, what we love, things that we do want to have, and put them back into make sure we have that enough in our daily activities. More of what we love, right? We talked about this other time. We have a list of things that we need, and we know we need about 20% of the time to have to do or have things that we love, in order to have us be and stay in that happy kind of a zone that we all want to be. So just to wrap up this today's kind of a concept here, I want you to imagine and to recognize that burnout is something real. We're all going to reach it at one point. But what we do is I sometimes personally, if I spend the night, because I usually do that, and I know you say it's not healthy, but sometimes I needed to do that in order to focus and to do a chunk of work that it's back of my mind, and it's going to nudge me, and it's going to create more of some kind of a feeling that's not going to make me happy until I finish something that we just put out. So it's better to stay probably some time and focus on, give yourself the time that's needed to get that done, or you have a deadline that's needed to be met, right? If somebody imposes some days on when some things can happen, especially in a work environment. But go back and just analyze what can you do if you have this 100 yards kind of I might be on my last 100 yards here. How and what would I change? What would be different? And use those questions, and whatever comes out from that setting, imaginary kind of an exercise, to prioritize, to see how quickly you can just do certain things that you're putting off. And I'm saying that this is probably a better way to, of course, live our life and be grateful for what we have every day. But in the same time, it's helping us achieve more. It's helping us do more things that matter to us faster. Don't put them on hold. Don't wait on our dreams or anything that we want to do. When we're thinking that we may be, and actually we all are, we don't know, on that 100 yards last few steps that we may have. And those steps should not be, should not be viewed as when you are in that moment that you need to struggle and to be suffering because you have a disease, right? Thinking that you may be on those 100-yard last few steps that you may have all the time, it's going to wire. It's helping us to become much. That's why you become much wiser and do better prioritizing our health. So actually, we may not get to spend our last steps on a bed of with some things that now it's hard to change. So it's harder to change. So those are my thoughts on how can we look positively on the role of a burnout that can exist or something that can happen to us any given moment. I hope this was useful. Let me know what your comments are, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.